Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Eviction Soju Company are declared the new heavyweight champions of Eternum. A bittersweet decision in the first moments of the bout. We caught up with the new champs to get their reaction.
I just want to say thank you to HBM. I know there wasn't very many out there, but those who did show up, thanks for coming out and, giving us a little tussle before it all goes down.
Well, it was over in less than 2 minutes, so clearly you're the new reigning heavyweight champions of Eternum. How did it feel out there?
Oh, it felt really good. I mean, the army just went out, did their thing as normal. Everyone was, at their spots, at their defaults, so I'm glad everybody can listen in an army. All you ever need.
Woo! In other news, Hanaconda forces repel Most Wanted in Restless Shore, where we caught up with company leadership. Well, thank you very much for stopping to take the time to chit-chat with me. I sure do appreciate it. Did you have a serious confrontation out there tonight?
Oh, man, John, I gotta tell you what. It was so much fun going up against Most Wanted. Happy to see them back on El Dorado. They should have never left to begin with. Shout out to the whole company. Shout out to my baby girl Nova. He's a Biss Bruiser. He did great. Shout out to Lindy. She did great as a healer out there tonight. It was a fun and tough fight, John. That's all I gotta say.
Looking at the weather, and once again, it's another beautiful day, all afternoon long, but after sundown, be on the lookout for southern storms giving rise to invasion forces in First Light, as well as northern haboobs stirring up trouble for the citizens of Brimstone Sands. 3 more submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Up first, the Syndicate forces of Immorally assault the Covenant forces of Tropical X for control of the rain-drenched region of Morningdale. The newcomers of Immorally travel to the distant northern mountain region in hope of putting down the Deathwall Zealots and re-establishing the forward observation post. The great house of Tropical X stand ready in the keep at the bottom of the hill. As the torrential rain obscures the battlefield, they prepare to hold the line. Meanwhile, the Syndicate forces of Strawberry attack the Marauders of Con Dodgers for control of the medicinal hot springs and resort destination of Ebonscale. An old acquaintance returns to the islands after an 8-month leave of absence. But have they been training all this time? And what tales might they tell as governors of Ebonscale? But the Con Dodgers have been holding the bamboo-rich region ever since the Death Wall receded north. It provides them with all the comfort and conflict they desire. Later, the Syndicate forces of Cutlass Keys Fan Club assail the Marauders of Xmas Dodgers for crowning kingdom of the Western Monarch's Bluff. Cutlass Keys Fan Club seek to expand their empire to the north in an effort to increase Syndicate territory holdings along the western coast. But the forces of Xmas Dodgers have a couple of tricks up their sleeve and will be utilizing several techniques and traps inspired by seasonal holiday filmography. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Strawberry successfully secure the medicinal hot springs and resort destination of Ebonscale. KOTT News crews were on the scene with some old familiar faces who continue to be straightforward in their intentions. Hello, Blind, would you care to say a couple things about the outcome tonight?
Yeah, sure. It is what it is. We just we come in, we do our thing. It's not our first time on Dorado. It's like our 3rd stop. It's just the classic, come in, take a Tory immediately, and then we kill the server, because nobody will be able to kill us. So, GG's.
Disconnected from your channel.
In all competition, please come push immediately. Please come push. Looking to hire invasion players, anybody that likes to do invasions. We can't even pay our own guys to show up, so pay other people to do it.
Following the brief exchange, the company immediately rebranded and begun issuing harvested hemp exclusively to due-paying union members, available daily. Too busy to stay for a spa day, KOTT traveled to the overcast region of Morningdale to get reactions from their war as well. The payout line was only just beginning to form up upon our arrival, so we spoke with one of the participants about their experience.
At some point, they had the point to probably 10% ticked. Only 10% though.
Whew, only.
Yeah, maybe like 15%. I don't know, not that much.
Yeah, I guess it's not that much to worry about until it's actually about to flip, right?
Right, like if like the right people, like if the right people die, 3 or 4 people there, then yeah, they can go in after that. And then respawn timer, so yeah, with timing it can be scary.
Moments later, we were able to speak with company leadership and get their reactions to tonight's events. Tell us about the fight, how'd it go out there?
Well, you know what? We tried a few different things. Majority of them didn't work. We won't be using those again. But again, we had a little issue between A and B point. We gave up all 3 points kind of early. But once we got in the fort, we came back very strong, held it for 20 minutes. Our shot caller was very on. He was on it today. He was good. Hubby Wubby from Playhouse was doing an amazing job. So big props to him. But it was just, you know what? I think everyone needed this kind of work because it was just back and forth, kind of tense. So everyone had a really good time.
I was speaking to some of the participants earlier who were inside the fort, holding it down with you. Some of them felt actually quite comfortable. So apparently your shot caller really had things well under control.
He did. And after the war was over, it was noted by many people. That was the very first thing they said. He did an amazing job, and he did.
Later in the evening, we spoke with an exhausted shot caller after their split outcomes.
Yeah, I can talk about, I can just go in right now and talk about both wars. For Evanscale, I would say GG to all the Dawn Guard and everyone else that was in that war on purple side. Play against people that are really at that level just so we can see where we are and then, continue to improve and focus on our gameplay.
Rather than thinking about losing in the future, you're thinking about how you might win in the future. And taking that forward into the second fight of the night, I'm sure your morale was still high and you were able to hold it here on the Monarch's Bluff. Would you care to take us through that fight?
Yeah, honestly, Monarch's Bluff, not the corners, but Monarch's Bluff is a farm war. I think that company, College Keys Fan Club, has a lot of really solid players, and one thing that I really respect that they're doing is that they're committed to building up their roster, to get better, kind of in the same position that we are in, that we're committed to building up our roster and do get better. And I know that, a lot of the players, in that company are someone like TWTV Respect and Fruby, those are some of the best musket players I've ever seen play. And they come out, they lead a group of people that they're encouraging to continuously get better. And I think that as a company, obviously they have as a 50-man some room for improvement, but just being on two sides of two very different wars, I understand what it feels to be farmed and I understand what it feels to farm. So kind of compare and contrast, but as always, I appreciate the Cutlass Keys Fan Club for pushing us and continuing to provide content in the game.
Well, you sound exhausted. It's been a long day. Thank you for taking the time to stop and talk to me. I'll let you go. Please enjoy a rest here in the hamlet. I'm sure I'd be happy to buy you a beer over at the inn behind us. Turning to the weather once more, the sun continues its perilous journey across the eternum sky. But once it's gone for the day, be on the lookout for a 30% chance of invasion rising up across the island. 2 more lineup submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. First up, the Covenant forces of Most Wanted attack the Marauders of Nothing Personal for control of the bear-infested deep forest of Brightwood. Most Wanted forces, growing more familiar with the new rules of simulated fantasy combat, increase their numbers with seasoned veterans and march into the woods to rouse the bears. But the forces of Nothing Personal get that. You gotta do what you gotta do, and they're gonna do what they gotta do. So we'll just see how it plays out by the end of the night with Nothing Personal. Meanwhile, the Marauders of Not Here Be Monsters challenge the Syndicate forces of Evixen Soju for their championship title and the right to rule over Everfall. Given the circumstances of the events surrounding HBM, this reporter can say with some degree of certainty that the HBM Dodgers did not in fact dodge HBM, but will Eviction Soju dodge them? Making a move to re-secure the centrally located regional hub, Not Here Be Monsters could really solidify the Marauder power structure of the island, if they can knock out the champs. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Most Wanted regained Great House status in the deep forests of Brightwood. And in Everfall, by way of knockout, your new, undisputed heavyweight champions of Eternum, here be Dodgers. We caught up with the new heavyweight champs after the fight, but security was tight around company leadership. After some persistence, a company representative was assigned to issue a few words. Congratulations, the new reigning heavyweight champions of Eternum, knocking them out pretty quickly tonight. How do you feel it went down?
I feel great. You know, they call Everfall never fall, but today Everfall fell. So that's a bit of a tongue twister, but it was a really good war. And, I think Longshot called it really well. And, we all enjoyed out there. It was a good time.
Excellent. Well, I let Huang know that I anticipate the forces of what are now called Gorilla Town to be coming over here very soon. So you gentlemen should be getting ready.
Yeah, Everfall may fall again, but we're gonna have a good time and we're gonna do our best to defend it and see what we can do.
Is there anybody out there whose efforts you might want to highlight?
Yeah, there's some few things that I would like to say. I'd like to shout out to Spillbro. At one point, I saw you more as a Ivan in Rocky 4 to my Rocky, but I realize you're more of an Apollo to my Rocky, and that at one point in Rocky 1, we were rivals, but now we are great friends, Esfel. And I'm glad that you have chosen the light side and that you came out and played with us today. I really appreciate it. And you make a good Apollo Creed, and so maybe we could do like a beach running marathon with our, out in the sun and stuff. I think I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. And I'd also like to say to Huangzong, wow, Layla. Oh, yeah, I'd also make sure you add this in. I'd like to shout out to Brumpton for being a soldier, as always. I also like the Captain Morgan pose he does.
There was celebration all night in Brightwood as well, and KOTT were able to get this exuberant acolyte of the Spark to share their thoughts on the outcome. Hello, are you willing to comment on tonight's outcome?
Oh, I loved it, my company put out a great fight. The other side also put a great fight. It was very satisfactory. And asked for more from my company. I think after this we're about to down a couple beers, so it was worth it.
After a dynamic nightfall, another celestial performance by the sun all day long, as Eternum prepares for another long night. A night filled with a 30% chance of corruption invasion forces rising up along the island's coastlines. 3 submissions for simulated fantasy combat resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it is cardboard. First up, the Marauders of Thrust Damage assail the Syndicate forces of Eviction Soju for control of First Light and the flow of the spice. The newcomers of Thrust Damage make their first move on the island, attempting to acquire the power-infusing spice harvesting and production facilities of the southern peninsula. But the reigning spice lords of the region are no strangers to plundering marauders on this island. They'll come prepared to fight for the spice. Then, the marauders of Suck My Oh My attack the syndicate forces of E-Boy Beach for control of the arid desert region of Brimstone Sands. Yet another plundering group of grave robbers attempting to steal the ancient archaeological history of the region to amass a personal wealth. But E-Boy Beach knows that the artifacts of the desert belong in a museum, and they'll stand up to any group of greenies who are acting like meanies. Meanwhile, the Covenant forces of Sugar and Spice Company assault the Syndicate forces of Hanaconda is Gone for control of the barely controllable Restless Shore. Where did all these fresh-faced refugees come from? As the anarchy on the archipelago continues, with a group of zealots running up the hill to fight in the mud. Standing atop the hill as the crashing sea mist sprays across the battlefield, the forces of Hanaconda stare down at these new acolytes of the Spark, prepared to teach them a lesson. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night, as all three great houses hold court and retain rulership of their respective regions. KOTT news crews were recovering from an anesthetic earlier in the day and slept right through it. Waking later, I was able to accidentally screen capture instead of record an interview, so went back to bed until this morning. And it looks like the start of the second harshest winter in Eternum's history. More on this story as it develops. But first, quickly to the weather, and today the sun is cutting and weaving all over the place before heading out to sea. But after sunfall, be on the lookout for minor corruption uprising before and after tonight's fights. 3 more roster submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Getting things started are the Covenant forces of Daddy Chill attacking the Syndicate forces of Strawberry for control of the resort destination of Ebonscale. The Covenant forces of Daddy Chill opportunistically strike just as Strawberry were getting settled in and preparing the hamlet for the second harshest winter in Eternum's history. As such, Strawberry forces have already laid out the salt around the keep and prepared long cleats for the battle. They'll be ready to strike at anyone stuck in the snow. Meanwhile, the Covenant forces of Sugar and Spice assail the Syndicate forces of Qui is 5'2" for control of the primary oil reserves of Weaver's Fen. Sugar and Spice, fighting on back-to-back nights, slog into the Bog of the Fen for their second attempt to secure land and the title of Great House. Qui may be 5'2", but he'll drop 30 on you and 20 if you slip in the oil slicks. So be on the lookout for a lightning-quick response from the defense tonight. After lights out, the Covenant forces of Most Wanted assault the Vault of Norivana for control of the financial capital of Windsward. Most Wanted forces return to action tonight, pitting themselves against the Central Corridor forces of Norivana. But will they figure out a combination to get through? Norivana forces have set up many false gates in the keyhole entry tonight, but that's if they need to use them, comfortable in their nightly patrol around the 3 outer objectives. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night, as each great house survives to fight another day. Syndicate mercenaries regrouped in Brimstone Sands for the early evening fight payout, once again, en masse. KOTT was able to speak with one of the participants while waiting for the payout to conclude.
Might do this Windsward War in about 5 minutes just to get fun with the homies. You see this guy right here?
Yeah?
He's trying to make me go to the Windsward War on the attack sign to get farmed with him.
Well, I understand that there's space on the attack side. KOTT was then able to speak with factional leadership, who spared a few words before the next fight. How do you feel it went out there tonight? I saw that you guys let them take 2 of the points and then fought for the final one for about 25 minutes. Were you ever in doubt?
Yeah, I mean, we went to this war feeling pretty confident, so then we saw how it was going, and we decided to throw away the B point and have a brawl on the last point, and that's about it. We just hold it down and push them off.
Excellent. Is there anybody on your team whose efforts you'd like to highlight tonight?
Honestly, not really. My squad is a bunch of stat patters and warloggers. They don't really do much unless hold W key, so they're kind of like, I got a bunch of monkeys with me.
Later in Windsward, KOTT News were able to secure an interview with one of the security marksmen of the Windsward Vault.
Dude, what is going on? How is the fight out there tonight? Were you out there in the middle of that battlefield?
You know, I was up on the walls, you know, sniping down on the purples. Bink, bink, bink.
Oh my gosh, my man, I was actually cameraman on offense today, and they were talking about the rifle lineup on the walls, so if that was you. You were getting complimented during the battle.
Really?
Yeah.
Me and my musket brother slewed. You know, we had to slay our enemies.
Returning to our ongoing coverage of the second harshest winter in Eternum's history, the traveling Wintervale Carnival is back again. You may have to revisit these festive locations even if you've been before, because the carts are a little different this time, and some of them are staffed. And of course, our old friend is back, giving away presents and asking for assistance to get through the winter. KOTT will bring you more on this story as it develops. In other news, citizens should be aware of a new drop available for a limited time through the tertiary market. Citizens visiting Reekwater will be surprised to see the central bridge has been repaired. The mayor was unavailable to comment on the specifics of the bridge construction, but KOTT will continue to investigate how it was built so fast and under budget. Turning to the weather, it looks like the sun isn't sticking around long today, so be alert for rapid temperature drops as multiple corruption forces rise up across 40% of the island. Another lineup submission for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Tonight, the Covenant forces of Tropical House assail the Marauders of Nirvana Bruisers Union for control of the master fishing port town of Reekwater. Nobody expected Tropical House to strike in the middle of the second harshest winter in Eternum's history. But that's what they wanted you to think! Nirvana forces enjoying the second longest running tenure on the island. Long enough that they've rebuilt the collapsed bridge twice. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as the forces of Nirvana Bruisers Union maintained the master fishing port town of Reekwater. KOTT was unable to secure an interview last night, but have submitted a request to discuss the new bridge stability projections. In breaking news, another seasonal counterfeiting racket has caused all trading to be suspended until further notice. KOTT News will bring you more on this story as it develops. Returning to our ongoing coverage of the Winter Festival event, KOTT News crews were on the scene in Eden Grove to investigate the reports of a giant Yeti terrorizing the community. While citizen response was rapid, if you encounter the beast alone, you should be mindful of his minions and unusual attack. In addition, this great creature seems able to use lightning and summon giant hailstones, so watch your head out there if you engage it. In more common weather phenomenon, the sun will still rise and fall today, keeping invasion forces at bay. But once more after sundown, they will rise up and attack across 30% of the island. Yet another submission for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Tonight, the Covenant forces of Daddy Chill assail the Syndicate forces of Anaconda for control of the barely controllable Restless Shore. Daddy Chill strike again for the second time in 3 days, this time in an effort to fight uphill in the rain, getting themselves covered in mud. The forces of Anaconda hang out at the top of said hill, awaiting the arrival of anyone able to make it up there. But will the cold weather make them slow to respond? Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Daddy Chill climb the hill and win with a thrill in Restless Shore. KOTT News crews were covering the war live last night. Be sure to check that out on LARPco Instant Classics. Humble in defeat, KOTT was given a rare opportunity to speak with the previous regional rulers as they were departing the mayor's office.
Oh, hello, my friend. Thanks for taking the time to stop and talk to me about the outcome tonight. Can you take us through what was going on out there tonight?
No, it was, I know that there's rumors out there that it was a throw war, but I want to go ahead and I want to nip that in the bud right now. This was absolutely not a throw war. We went out there and we gave it the best that we could with the best roster we could put together, and we were trying our best to hold it down, but I don't know what happened at the end. There was a lot of DC issues, I think, but, you know, they earned it. Daddy Chill, it was a good war. They deserve Restless, for sure.
Tell me, is there anybody whose efforts out there you might want to highlight tonight?
Well, you know, I think part of the reason we lost was because we were really missing King Rob and Az and Sushi's fire staff. They're pretty best players for us, and we didn't have them out tonight, which felt kind of bad. But I think everybody that was in the war did a really great job, and we tried our best to hold it down, but they were able to best us at the end, you know.
Soon after, the former train conductor and newly resolved mayor arrived, taking a moment to answer a few questions for the citizens.
Excellent performance out there. Care to take us through it? I know you got in the gates early, but it took a long time to finally take down the flag. What do you think happened?
Yeah, you know, I was a late sub in here, John, and I was actually called in to do healing. I've never healed in a war. I've got full luck gear on, full luck life staff, void gauntlet. And, you know, it was actually pretty easy. We thought we would kind of try some new strats going into the fort. You know, honestly, they were actually pretty bad. I know they're saying that they threw it, but you know, honestly, I would be embarrassed too if I lost in that fashion. So, you know.
Oh, here comes Nova. He's got something to say about that. Nova, you disagree with his assessment of the situation? Can you hear him?
I cannot. Just like their war comms, they were very unorganized. People were muted. People had one volume. It was very, very poor. We kind of felt bad taking the points pretty quickly like that. So we took our time in the fort, tried out some new strats. And at the end of the day, we said, you know what? There's like 3 or 4 minutes left. Let's go ahead and start pushing, push the point, and we got it.
In other news, the exchange post has resumed trading goods across the island. Citizens can exchange virtual goods for virtual currencies once more. Speaking of virtual goods, be sure to pick up your free items in the secondary market, available for a limited time. Turning to the weather, and it's another stellar performance by the sun today. But after sundown, a 30% chance of invasion will arise across the island. One submission for simulated fantasy combat resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. Tonight, the syndicate forces of Strawberry challenge the Marauders of Here Be Dodgers for their championship title and the right to rule over Everfall. In the purple corner, the syndicate union members of the Ebonscale Tourism Council, infused with fresh arrivals and longtime veterans, enter the ring to knock out the champs. In the green corner, the newest amalgamation of members representing the newest and current heavyweight champions of Eternum. Here be Dodgers! We'll have any late-breaking outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News.